Hello and welcome to a very special collection from Two Red Robins. Today, let me introduce you to Enchanted Oak. Now, this is super sweet. Basically, we're inviting you into the little world of all our creatures. You may have seen them previously on collections from last year in our environment. But what I mean by that is they're doing their thing in our world. Now let's go into their world. So Enchanted Oak is full of the finest seamstresses in the land of Two Red Robins. And here is where it all happens. I love the fairy tale quality of Enchanted Oak itself. It's so beautiful. You can imagine just being lucky enough to stumble across this in a walk through a really lovely old wood. The little door just into the tree, the wonderful sort of bay windows to the top, and of course these windows with the shutters open wide, just inviting you in. And you know it's all happening. You know someone's home because look, we've got a little plume of smoke going up. Add a little bit of cotton wool to that. Add some fairy lights behind these windows to give it a glow as well. But we're not bringing you Enchanted Oak in just one size. Oh no, we are bringing it in several different sizes for perspective. So we're showing you with the artwork, the die itself. You've got the 3 different designs like so, really allowing you to build in perspective. So if you don't want Enchanted Oak as the front and center, you could just have it in the background of your designs as well. Let's take a look at some of the other things that might go on. Now we looked at the wonderful windows and the Enchanted Oak itself. How about creating a scene, either an indoor scene with a window in the background or an outdoor scene with a window looking in? You've got options. And look to your scene building USBs for your backgrounds for these, or maybe even the reflections. A nice cloudy little reflection there. Of course, if you wanted to, take the curtain off the one side and bring it over to the other side as well, so you have a double curtain aspect on that. But again, detailing, it's really homely. It feels like a whole story is going on behind these windows there. Now, we mentioned it earlier. The story of Enchanted Oak really just pivots around the wonderful Sew Ready die. Now I'm sure, just like me, you've got stories of perhaps your nan or your mum sewing things on a sewing machine that looked just like this. We had one sitting in our living room for a very long while when I was growing up, and I was just mesmerised by the fact it had this wonderful hand crank design. You could turn this around and the mechanics of it all with the needle going up and down, magical. Beautiful detailing, beautiful artistry on this with the beautiful flowers in pinks and oranges and blues and things like that. But it's just telling that story. You know this is emotion because you've got the fold of fabric coming across the top of the machine there as well. Again, we've got it in the 3 sizes. So whatever story you want to tell, you've got the options there size-wise. Now when it comes to all things sewing, we need the elements that work with that. So something like put a pin in it. We've got your little pin cushion here, again with those pins. But again, we're giving you full control over that. So again, the different sizes, the nested die designs, different sizes in the pins. Have the pins stacked how you want them to be. Maybe you want to, I don't know, turn this into a little pot and have your little mice sitting in these. It could be like a little cushion. We have got a wonderful example from the design team when they've used this as a wedding cake, because you've got the different tiers going right up to the smallest one there as well. Next up, what could this one be? We've done it in the white cuts for you, but as soon as you add the reflections, you can see it's that homely feel, isn't it? Our wonderful snug as a rug. This works perfectly as a grounding device into which you could have perhaps your sewing machine on top, maybe your pin cushions on top. It's all about inviting you into the world of our little characters and their cozy little homes. Again, similar sort of patterns as to what you saw on the sewing machines, that everything is going to work together beautifully. And of course, being Two Red Robins, this is a nested die, so you've got plenty of different sizes to play with here as well. Take a look at our characters. This is Uma. She is gorgeous, and you can see she's got her knitting needles on the go. She's sat herself plumped up on a few little cushions there, but you could snip away the cushions and have her sitting on that pin cushion just as an example as well. Beautiful colour reflections. If you're looking for the artwork for this collection, it is available as a free download for the original colourways from our website, highlightcrafts.com. Next up, let's get Uma some friends, shall we? Here we have Best Dressed. This is great. This is a whole story in one die itself. We have our little mouse on her tippy toes, of course, just coming in and dressing our Robin. You know, they're visiting our seamstresses here because they really do have the best tailors in the business. He's selected a beautiful fabric for maybe a scarf here, and she's measuring it all up. They're having a wonderful little conversation between themselves, but it's that detail. They're using elements from the human world as furniture in their world. So our little Robin here is atop one of the little thimbles there too. She's even got, I mean, look at her pocket, full laden with scissors and little reams of thread. She knows her business, this little mouse does. Next up, we have Dressed Up Buddy. So if we go right back to the start of Two Red Robins, you were introduced to a few of the robins, Buddy being one of them. But now, because we've gained their trust, just crafters, we're their friends now, they're letting us into their world and we're finally seeing them as how they really are. So Buddy is, of course, dressed up. He's visited Enchanted Oak. He's got himself a beautiful flat cap and a gorgeous scarf to match. I love just his little personality in this as well. Now, where we have Buddy, we have little mice. Again, it continues the story. So these are our little helpers, and again, full of movement, full of design. You could have these sitting atop the sewing machine. You could have these bouncing maybe up and down on the pincushion. It's really over to you to tell the story, but I love how these little mice are all interacting. You've got things like with their little arms outstretched, you could put the pins in there to make it look like she's helping. Maybe she's pulling the thread or the fabric through the sewing machine there as well. It's full of energy, and I love that for this collection. Who else do we have in here? Oh my goodness, we have Willow as well. Doesn't he look dandy? Doesn't he look absolutely gorgeous? So just like Buddy, we're introducing you to Willow, but this time around, Willow is all dressed up in his beautiful little scarf and, of course, top hat with matching little sash around it and, of course, a little cane just tucked under his wing. I mean, he looks fancy, doesn't he? He looks like he's doing well for himself. Again, beautiful. And it's those wonderful stories that we revisit with this collection and just make new ones with too. Finally, one little die set left, and again, full of motion, full of adventure. We've got Thelma, and Thelma is here. I love the fact she's actually rocking back and forth on her little bobbins here. Do you see that one's tipped slightly back? She's having a whale of a time. She's sewing perhaps a little garment for one of the robins that have come to visit. Maybe it's a custom order from one of the tenants of Enchanted Oak as well. But again, it's that detailing, even down to her gorgeous little pink shoes that match her little pink dress as well. So what stories are you going to tell with this collection? There are so many ways of using this, and I'm sure once you guys get this home, you're going to find even more ways of telling stories with this collection. But I wanted to share with you a couple of the designs created by our wonderful design team, because these are so pretty. Look at something like this. How about a freestanding card created using the different elements, the different sizes of the trees to basically create a whole wood? A whole neighbourhood here. We've got the mice popping out of their houses. Look at them in the middle there, just sort of beating the rug over the top of the trees there. And then at the front and centre of the card design, you've got all of this industry going on. You've got the mice around that sewing machine, using their little pin cushions, pulling the fabric through. I love the way the fabric has been folded and cascades down out of the machine there as well. That is super, super cute. Maybe you want to create an indoor scene. Now, we mentioned that wonderful window, didn't we? What about something like this, where you've got the sewing machine and, of course, all those wonderful little pincushions off to one side with the mice sitting on top of them. Again, it feels busy, doesn't it? It feels like so much is going on here. I love the little mouse in the background, again, pulling that fabric through. And again, a great point on this one. Why not introduce fabric into this design? Here, Kath, thank you very much, Kath, has just taken a little bit of fabric, just kind of just put it through the machine itself to give you that illusion that this is being created in real time. Let's look at one last sample here, because I think it's also lovely to see nice, clean and simple designs with something like this as well. What about just front and centre, that gorgeous window, a design you've created in the background, and then some simple but very effective matte layering. Look to your stash, embellish it with flowers that match the beautiful colours within this collection. And of course, your robin just landed at the window to have a little look as well. that's the Enchanted Oak collection. Absolutely stunning. So many layers, so many details to it as well. Right, so let's get on with a demo with this. So what I've done is I've got all the die cuts out in front of me because I like to have everything there to hand. And I think we're going to do, I don't know if I'll do a whole card, but I'm definitely going to show you a couple of different layout designs. I might end up doing a whole card. Let's see how it goes. I tend to start with an anchor point, and by that I mean something that is going to be the main focus of my card that I can build my story around. And my goodness me, what a gorgeous die cut to start with. This is the Enchanted Oak, and this is where all the magic happens for this kind of design. I'm just looking to my other dies. Let's come in with a few. So let's grab one of the sewing machines in the foreground. So I want a big one just to make it instant perspective. Do you see how putting that in front pushes that tree back and this whole element then pops? But we do need to ground this design as well. So let's get one of the carpets and have that on there. Might even want to go for a bigger one just so all of the legs of the sewing machine, I don't know if you call them legs, spokes, I'm not sure. Something like that. Again, creates an area of interest. You've got this element in the foreground, which is absolutely this place. So this is your sewing machine on your little rug there. It pushes that tree in the background. The tree becomes more of a texture of the design. Now, of course, from here, let's have a little mice working on this machine. So I'm going to do a few layouts and then we might get to just designing around this too. So maybe we have our little mouse sitting at the machine itself. Maybe we've got a little mouse in the other side just to balance. I love the way that you've got one turning in, one turning out. So they're both nestled on the rug just to balance, you know, you've got the design there. And maybe we're going to have the little baby mice just around the machine as well. So let's have one. Let's have two, and let's build a little story around these. Let's have three and see how we go with these. So it could be this little mouse. Look, if I pop her behind with her little hands, if we cut into those hands, she could be grasping the fabric, and all of a sudden, she's the one creating this piece. It looks seamless, doesn't it? It's so, so pretty. And maybe you've got this little baby mouse who just loves sitting with mummy and watching her knit. Maybe she's learning to knit. Maybe she's being very, very attentive there. Very sweet. So it makes a little family group on this side. And of course, what we could do is have another little mouse on that side. So again, it's a little family group. You don't even necessarily have to have the tree in the background if you don't want to. If you want to make it an indoor scene, take the tree out, bring in the window, which is so sweet, so organic and design. You can, of course, if you've got, I don't know, Minecraft Studio scene building USBs, you could create a little scene behind that if you want to. We have got the little cutouts, though, of the skyline. So let's just layer that over the top, slot that back into place. Now, doesn't that instantly look like we've sort of just stumbled into their living room where they're creating all these wonderful things? And then we can have the curtains. And as I mentioned as we're going through the boards, if you're just clever with your cutting, you can snip this edge of the curtain away and have that on the other side like so. So you're creating a whole indoor scene with your little mice as well. I love that. I think it's so, so pretty. Love this collection. Okay, that's a few little layouts. I think let's go ahead and make something. Let's make a card design. Let's keep these out because it might be that we come to these. We might use this in the overall design. But I'm thinking, what do I want to do? Do I want to make a freestanding card? I think I possibly do. Let's go for it. Let's take that as our grounding device and the sewing machine there as our design. So I'm just tilting that so I get the position in perspective with the rest of the design there. I'm going to go ahead and glue just in the areas where it will meet the mat, and that will give us our starting place for this design. A little bit of binding glue on the back, so I want a nice flat layers between these. And again, just tilting that so we get that position working with the perspective on the mat. So everything looks like it's kind of in the same orientation there as well. Okay, that gives us a place to start. I'm going to go ahead and make this into a freestanding card design. So let me grab some of my acetate. I always have a whole stash of little kickstands, I think is the best way to describe them, made out of acetate. So for whatever design I have, whatever size, I've always got something I can just add to the back as a little kickstand to create a freestanding design. If you're using construction acetate in that way, what I'd recommend when scoring is just taking a ruler or a scoreboard, and instead of using the ball tool, use a pokey tool on a very shallow angle to initially score the card. Do it a couple of times as the card begins to bend round, and then just switch that down and use a bone folder just to neaten up that score line as well. But I'll put that on at the end just so we can make sure we've got everything standing correctly. I'm quite keen on balancing this kind of curve here with the pin cushions, because I think these are a little bit of fun. So these could be in the foreground. We're going to have our mice sitting on them as well. That size, that size. Again, having them nested means you've got so many options with how you want to use them. So let's lay that down. That could be on there, which means our little mouse that would sit this way, I want her sitting on the pin cushion instead. Let's do it. I'm going to snip away using the cut line details that are already in place. So just snipping her away from her little cushions that she's got, which are very sweet, but I don't want her on cushions. I want her on the pin cushion itself. There. And again, just remembering that extra little leg, like so, following the cut lines. Oh, that's quite sweet, isn't it? Now she's nested, now she's perched. She looks comfy, doesn't she? She looks very, very comfy there. And of course, then her little baby mouse could follow suit, actually, because we've got the other side pin cushions, haven't we? She can have her own pin cushion, as long as she's not sitting on any pins. I think that's worth considering. Have a little pin, have a little mouse. Yeah, that's cute. That's super cute. And what I'm doing here is just nudging baby mouse back a bit, because you don't want sort of unsightly little bits of where you've got the die cut coming out. You want her nudged back so it all just fits in quite nicely, but that's great. And that means that edge of the card itself isn't going to overlap or overhang too. So let's just orientate her. I love this little mouse in the background. I think she absolutely has to work there. But again, I want to cut into her little hands so she can grasp the material that's coming out of the sewing machine there as well. So again, it's all these little stories, it's all these little ways of using these die cuts you're going to discover, and I think it's such a fun way of working with them as well. Just gently like so, leaving her skirt and things in place. We just want to open her a little bit, so you've got a little bit of room there to slot her behind and have her pulling the fabric through. So instantly just taking those little hands and placing them onto the fabric gives you that whole little story design too. So just move our little mices out 1 minute, just as we add her into the background design. Can use a little bit of bookbinding glue on her and just tuck her behind the rug. And again, just lifting so we can see where we're going with this. And then having her little hands. Oh, cute, very cute, like so. Just squidging to make sure that sits in place. And where her hands are, I want them actually touching on the fabric itself. So I'm going to use one of our Craft Master glue applicators here, just so I can get right into the detailing. So I'm going to get a little bit of glue on my work surface there. Just pick that up. This is a well-loved one, so you can use your glue applicators time and time again. Mine's very well used, but I'm just putting a little bit of glue behind her paws, so her paws will connect to the fabric without squidging the glue everywhere. Just like so. Now what we want to do is add back in those mice. So starting from the furthest away one first, just getting that positioning right so we don't overlap our little mouse who is diligently working in the background there. But each layer I'm just checking for positioning where the glue would be. So you've got your layers and then coming in with a little bit of glue and just sticking down. Now if you want lots more fullness to this and you're not sending this through the post or anything like this, what I recommend is taking a couple of die cuts, stacking them on top of one another, maybe even decoupaging them as well. So here where she's got her hands and her knitting, bring that forward as another layer just to give you a wonderful sense of perspective and depth and detailing there as well. Again, just offering that up to see where she sits and where the little glue would be. So a little bit on her bottom and a little bit on the bottom of her skirt as well. Like so. And again, just thinking about placement, making sure that she's Not sort of tilted all the way back like she's going to tip off the pin cushion there, but just at a little bit of an angle. You've still got the detailing of the sewing machine coming round, and of course we're not getting in front of this little mouse here, but we do need a little anchor point on her nose, just where it can stick to the sewing machine like so. And again, same thing, if you want to decoupage up the sewing machine, this would be a great layer to bring forward, you know, really give that a lot of depth, cut into your layers and create your own decoupage with those as well. Oh, not my little pin cushion slightly, but that doesn't matter too much. Again, before I commit to the stick, I'm just going to lay my little mice down. So we either have it so this is quite forward and this little mouse is quite forward and she's looking intently at what mum is doing with the knitting needles there, or we could balance the whole design by having her back and have her sitting like so. So you've almost got this kind of triangle forming like so. I think I'm going to place her there. And again, a little bit of glue behind to stick. And again, just taking my fingers, just bringing her forward a little bit, and then just a little bit of glue on the back to stick. Just as we did with mum, finding that position. And I love that. Again, it's that story, isn't it? You've got this, almost hear the conversation going on between all of these little elements here. I think it's so, so sweet. Going to go ahead and balance on the other side there. I mean, that in itself would be a really super lovely, simple card there, wouldn't it? Really, really pretty. But I do think we need to have our little mice on the other side. So it almost feels like a whole gathering. They're all chattering at the same time. They've all got ideas. They're all getting involved. They're all excited about the dresses they're making and things like that. So that sewing machine gets pushed as a texture basically into the background. We still see what's going on, but it's working as this anchor point that the mice are all sitting around and chattering merrily away as well. Love that, super sweet. And again, just checking where my glue will be so they will stick nicely too. Again, just bringing this mouse forward a little bit, sticking her, and then her little daughter mouse, if you like, just coming in to the one side as well. So a little bit of glue. Each time just checking for positioning and where she's going to sit. I love that. She's kind of looking up, so it might be that you want to pop your sentiment up here, for example, if you wanted to. As we've discussed, you could have the little window there, which would be super sweet. I think for this one I'm going to have a look how the tree looks. I'm also going to have another look at the baby mice and just see who else I've got, because I've got this little mouse. She could, oh, there we go, look, she could be sat on top of the sewing machine. So now you've got this little mouse who is trying to learn. She's got the best intention, but she's being distracted by the naughty mouse sitting on top of the sewing machine. I think it's going to have to be that. So again, let's just cut away the little, I think it's a little bobbin she's sitting on. Be careful to keep her foot in place. Oh, naughty mouse, distracting everyone, sitting on top of the sewing machine. So again, a little bit of glue along the bottom, just to tell that story around this naughty little mouse. Like so. That's quite sweet, isn't it? And then you've got a whole sort of family going on, all these different mice, all these different things that they're doing here. And it could be, like we mentioned, you want to go ahead and have that tree in the background. I think that adds a really nice element to it as well. It also gives us somewhere that we can create a kickstand if you want to. Of course, you could cut the tree from plain white, score it along the top and have it like so. So you can create that kind of tent-fold card design, which would give us a nice element of grounding to the overall design too. I'm just getting rid of that little bit of glue. So if we do that, have the tree in place like so. Having it on a piece of card just really helps give you that strength and rigidity, and it means our story, if you like, would sit in the foreground like so. So that's a really easy way of creating a nice effect between your layers there. Or as we mentioned, if you wanted to, you can just keep it as this sort of design with a little kickstand. Let's just check. Got a little bit of wayward fluff kind of stuff on there. And then this will sit in your largest sort of area towards the bottommost element if you want, and then would kick back like so as well. If you want to strengthen these, you could add layers of card behind too. But again, having that option of using the construction acetate means you're not going to see it. So you get this kind of wonderful freestanding card effect. I'm going to go ahead and stick this like so. I'm not going to use up all the elements that can be used on the show as well, but just to give you an idea of how this would look, let's go ahead and stick this little piece to our tree. Again, I'm using the grid lines on my mat to make sure everything stays kind of parallel, and by that I mean where I've grounded our little mice and they're sitting within an orientation. I'm making sure that's continued on the design too. A little bit of glue behind that mouse to anchor her in place, and of course cheeky mouse at the top there, super naughty mouse sitting on top of the sewing machine, sticking that. So you've got this whole kind of design. Now what we've got here is the principles of those wonderful triangles that we talk about in a lot of the classes, where you've got the design coming up, down to a point and along, and your centerpiece is that little mouse to the center, just creating her little garments on the sewing machine as well. This could be if you wanted to scale down a little bit and put on an 8x8 card, for example, if you wanted a more traditional design. But there we go. A wonderful little scene created using those cheeky little mice, wonderful seamstresses, and of course their little children mice as well, from the Enchanted Oak collection from 2 Red Robins. I love that. I think it's so much fun, super, super sweet. And again, I can't wait to see what you're going to be creating with this wonderful collection too. Thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing your designs in our Facebook group, Highlight Crafts Official. And don't forget, if you're watching us on YouTube, to like and subscribe as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you would like to see more from Highlight Crafts, make sure you click the like button. Subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below, and click the bell icon to receive notifications on all our future content. You can also click here to see our latest video, or click here to see more videos like this one.